Hello, I'm Steve Barnes, Director of Science and Compliance for Aquastar Pool Products. I'm here with the amazing Aquastar pipeline pump, and what we want to do is go through the high-level programming that's on board with the pump itself. So we'll take you through button by button, menu by menu. So let's dive in. I want to take you quickly through the basic functionality of programming this amazing pipeline pump. So we'll set the time, we'll look at speeds, we'll look at schedules, and some of the other features at a high level to give you just a sense of what this pump has to offer. For programming, you need the pump powered on but not running. And then we're going to access the controls through the computer on board. First thing we're going to do is set the time. So we're going to select menu, and that will get us into the settings. Number one is time. We select enter, and then we select enter again to set the time. This is defaulted to a 12-hour clock. It can also be used in a 24-hour clock. And so what we want to do is set the time, and here right now it's 12:51 p.m. So I'm going to arrow over to the minutes, and I am going to go up to 12. Oop, now we went to AM, so I have to go all the way around to noon. 11 a.m. 12, okay. Now we cycle over to the time, and it's 12:52. So we're good on 50. We need to lower the 6 to a 2 and then enter. We have now set the clock for the pump. So we have the time set at 12:52. Now let's go in and look at how to set speeds. So again, we press the menu button. We scroll down to speeds, select enter, and then speed 1, if we select enter again, we are going to see it is factory default setting of 900 RPM. Now, if we only need a lower we can go down to 800 RPM, which is the lowest RPM, select 8, hit enter, and now speed 1 is 800 RPM. Let's see what speed 2 is. Speed 2 default is 1500. Let's say we want speed 2 to be 1800. We move over to the 5, arrow up to 18, hit enter. We have now programmed speed 2. We can do the exact same thing for speed 3. Its default is 2500 RPM, and then speed 4 is the defaults to 2900 RPM. Any of those can be changed, and there's a whole design philosophy on what that will be, but we'll handle that in a different video. So now let's talk about scheduling. Scheduling is where a schedule is when the pump will turn on and turn off according to how it's programmed. We also can select the speed at which it will operate. So to do that, what we do is we go in and select the menu button, and we scroll down to item 3, which is schedule, and then select enter. And we're going to go into schedule 1 by selecting enter. And the very first thing we have to do is enable this schedule. So we do that by selecting enter, and we move the arrow from disable to enable, select enter, and now the schedule 1 will operate. Now if we want to change the time on of schedule 1, we scroll down to time on, select enter, and then we're going to move over to the time. So let's say the default is 8:30. Let's say we want it to come on at 7 a.m. So we're going to scroll over to the hour, click down to get it to 7, and then we're going to move over to the minutes, and we're going to take that down to 0. So it's 7 a.m. It's already on 7 a.m. So now we select enter, and the time on is 7 a.m. Now let's go to the time off, works the exact same way. So we scroll down to 3, select enter. This is currently scheduled to go off at 11:30 a.m. Well, let's say we want it to go off at 5 p.m. So we're going to scroll over 2 arrow to the left to get to the hours, and we are going to go up past 11 a.m. Now we're at 12 p.m. So let's go on up to 5 p.m. over, because now it's at 5:30. We want it to go off at 5. Scroll it to 0, select enter, and now schedule 1 is programmed for to come on, and time off. The last element is we need to select one of our program speeds. So here we select, currently it is set for speed 1, but let's say that our daily operation is speed 3. So in that case, all we're going to do is arrow up to 3, select enter, and now we have the speed for schedule 1. So to review, we have under each schedule we have a function that you need to enable to make the schedule work. Then we have the time on, what time will the pump turn on, what time will the pump turn off, and which of our 4 speeds do we want it to run on. And that is how we set up the schedule. That was schedule 1. We have the ability to do a 2, a 3, and 1 additional one that we will cover in a minute. So there's 3 schedules, so you can do different times of the day to do different functions of the pump. The next feature I want to talk about is an exclusive and really cool feature with the pipeline pump. It's called varying stream. And so what varying stream is, it's a program that moves from one lower speed to a higher speed, back to a lower speed, up and down, up and down. So I want you to think about a bubbler jet perhaps in a pool. And what this feature will do will make that feature go up and down over a specific period of time and at a specific speed and rhythm. How fast is it moving? And so you can really add some interesting effects to things like spa overflows, bubbler jets, fountains. It's got other applications too, but let's focus on a fountain feature, bubbler jet, first. So how do we program this? Okay, going into our menu settings, first thing we select menu, and then we are going to scroll down to item number 4, varying stream. That's what we're talking about. Now let me real quickly give you an overview. There's the function to turn varying stream on and off. What time of the day will this function come on? What time of the day will this function turn back off? Then we're going to have the minimum speed. What is the lowest speed we want our fountain to run? That'll be its shortest mode, if you will. And then the next is the max speed. That's going to be the how high will the fountain go. And then step is how big a change in RPM will happen as we move from minimum to maximum and then back again. So step is how many RPM are we going to change with each step. And then rhythm is how fast is it going to change each of those steps. So let's take this from the top. I'm going to save the enabling the function for last. So let's start with the time of day. First, let's set the time we want the feature to come on. And let's say we get home from work at night at 6 p.m. So we want our fountain to be already doing a fun show when we walk in the back door, walk into the house. So we're going to select the time on, and currently it's coming on at 7 a.m. So we want to change this to 6 p.m. So I'm going to move over to the hours, and I'm going to scroll up through noon and all the way up to 6 p.m. And then right now it's coming on at 6:30. Let's go ahead and take that to the top of the hour, and select enter will give us our 6 p.m. start time. And let's say we want to have this turn off when we call it an evening at 9 p.m. So again, you select, come over to the hour, and we're going to go up to 9. And right now it's going to go off at 9:30, so we'll select it so it goes off at 9 p.m. Okay, so now our function will come on at 6 p.m. It's always good to double check your work. And it's going to turn off, should be 9 p.m. and that's what we got. Okay, so that's what we wanted. So that, now we know when it's going to run. Now let's look at the next thing is going to be the minimum speed. Now this is a bubbler, so it's not going to take a lot of power to provide a fun effect. But I'm going to go ahead and change it. The default minimum is 900. Let's go ahead and take it to 1,000. And that's the lowest speed. And because it's a bubbler jet, we don't want it hosing down the roof. So we're going to set the maximum speed. 2,300 is pretty fast for or excuse me, 2,900 is pretty fast for a fountain. So let's slow this down to, our low speed's 1,000. Let's say we're going to go to 2,000. So I'll take this down to 2,000. Okay, so now we have a max speed of 2,000 and a min speed of 1,000. And next thing we're going to go look at is the step. How fast is it going to change? Or how big a step is it going to make as it changes from min to max? Right now it's 100 RPM. And so I'm going to increase this to 200 RPM. So now every step it's going to go from 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,400 to 1,600 to 1,800 to 2,000, and then it's going to go back down. So now let's see how fast it makes those speed changes, and I believe the default is 1 second. So it's going to change speed, hold it for a second, change speed, hold it for a second, and then that combination is going to give us our rhythm. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that rhythm. So let's go ahead and set the function to enabled. Okay, and now I've done it. I have my time of day as 6 p.m. and it's not 6 p.m. here. So I'm going to go back into time on. What time is it here? It is just after 2 o'clock. So let's go change the time on to 2 p.m. Okay, enter. That way, when I enable the function and then okay, so now it's all programmed. So now when I enable the, when I turn on the pump, because we are in the scheduled time, you will see the varying stream in action. So you should be able to hear it changing at 200 RPM per step, and it's doing that every second. So that's pretty quick. That fountain's going to be jumping around. Let's say we want to slow it down and have it more gentle. So let's go back to menu. Let's go down to varying stream. Let's go down to our step. We want to go down to our rhythm. And right now it's changing speeds every 1 second. Let's slow that down to the other extreme and let's take it to, well, I won't go to the other extreme because we don't have time. So I'll just slow it down to 4 seconds per change. Okay, accept that and go back to our home screen and let's hit play again. And there it just went from low to high every 4 seconds. And so now it's reversing, it's varying it on the way down. So you can see it's changing every 4 seconds, it's changing the speed by 200 RPM. And that is varying stream. So that's varying stream. And now let's look at language. So varying stream is number 4. Number 5 is language. Again, the same thing. You highlight it, select enter, and then it defaults to English. We have the option of Spanish, Español, and just like anything else, to enable Spanish, we just highlight it, hit select. The next feature we're going to talk about is called no flow, and what that is, that's a feature for the pump to protect itself if there's a no flow condition. There are 2 examples of this. It wasn't primed, so you never put water in it. You just turn on the pump with no water in it. That's a no flow condition. The second is a pump that was operating normally, and then like the valve to the main drains was turned off, or a skimmer completely plugs up. In other words, there's no flow for another reason, a valve closed before or after the pump, or for whatever reason. And in both of the no flow cases, you will get an alarm that is adjustable. So let's look at confirming that this is enabled, and let's look at the timer timings that we have. Okay. So we go to number 6, no flow, select enter. The number 1 function is whether it's enabled or not, and you will find it comes enabled by the default. You can turn off a no flow alarm. Not sure what the advantage of that would be, but you can enable and disable. And then on number 2, the alarm time, this will be how long the alarm sounds. The default is 10 minutes, that's the minimum, but it can be, the alarm time can be increased from 10 minutes to 20 to 30. So those are your options for how long no flow alarm will last. Next up, let's talk about the priming feature. And priming is when the pump is first started, either after a backwash, cleaning, or any of that kind of thing. Priming can take longer to get air out of the pump. Basically, priming, the process is you fill the pump basket with water, the pump turns on at a higher speed, and then it moves water and air until the whole pump basket is full of water and operating normal. Now, it's important to understand you will likely see bubbles and air in the clear basket. That just is pretty common with all pumps. So you can see through the clear lid to know it's operating. Now, let's talk about the priming options that we have available. This priming is under item number 7 in the settings menu. And then, so we're going to select number 7, priming. And like all the other features, number 1 is enable priming. It comes enabled from the factory. It can be disabled. You might not need any higher speed to prime a pool if it's well behaved, well designed, and especially if the pump is below water level, then priming is not an important function that you need. So it comes enabled. Then we have priming time. How long will it run at a higher speed? The default is 2 minutes, and it can be increased to 20 minutes max. The next, number 3, is what is the priming speed? The default is 2,900 RPMs. We find that works well. If you have a elevated pump, so your pump is above the pool level, or it's small pipe potentially, you might need to use a higher RPM for your priming. As I mentioned, if it's below water level, maybe you don't need as high a speed. So this is how the Pool Pro can set up the speed that's optimized for the very specific installation. And that is priming. Next up, we're going to look at rotate the display. And so this is just simply to reverse the direction of the display so you can read it from the other side of the pump. Like everything else, you go to highlight in settings, number 8, rotate display. And the standard is the default, and that's with the display as you see it here, where the buttons are below the screen. And then if you rotate it, it just flips the screen upside down so we can see it from the other side of the pump and control those settings from here and be able to read it. So real simple feature, and we're going to rotate this back. So we'll take it back to standard so I can read it. Number 9 is freeze protection. So freeze protection is again a feature that's designed to protect the pump primarily. There's electronics in it. There's obviously freezing water's bad in the pump, but it will operate when it comes by enabled by default. And if the outside air temperature gets below 40 C or about 39 degrees Fahrenheit, the pump will turn itself on to keep it from freezing. So let's look at the options for freeze protection. Freeze protection is under the settings menu as item number 9. So we're going to select it. Now, item 1 is always function, which this is defaulted to enable. If you're in the desert and it never freezes, you could disable it, but then again, who would know? Okay, the duration is how long the pump is going to run when the temperature drops. The default is 1 hour, and this can be extended up to 8 hours. Okay, so that's the duration. So when it gets cold, it will run by default for 1 hour, but you can change that to make it last longer. If you're in an area where it can freeze for, it gets down into a harder freeze, you might want to run it longer so that it does a better job of preventing freezing. Okay, now we do have a speed setting for this. Its default is 1700, and actually the default speed for all variable speed motors is actually regulated by the Department of Energy. So they have to be programmed from the factory at less than half speed or less. So that's why you're seeing 1700. That should be more than enough to move water, but you can select any speed you like. Now you can change the temperature, and it defaults to 4 degrees C. You can, if you lower it, 0 degrees C is freezing. And if you, so you can raise it so it would come on sooner or later relative to the outside temperature. Next up, we're going to talk about Wi-Fi. So the pipeline pump is, you can go to the App Store, or I believe it's called the Google Store, where you can get the Aquastar app for Android or iPhone, iPad, all of those things, okay? So you have to go to the applicable app store and download that. Once you have the app and have it installed, the part on the pump is really easy. There's very specific instructions for each of the apps, and we'll cover those separately. Relative to the programming on the pump, you will see that Wi-Fi is item number 10 in the settings. And when you go in here, we're going to look, and by default, the Wi-Fi should be on and enabled. So we see it is here. Now let me escape back all the way to the main screen, and you'll see after the time, you will see the Wi-Fi symbol. So you really don't even need to go into the menu to know that it's on. But we'll go back in and look one more time. So from the home screen, I'm going to go menu, and then we're going to scroll down to Wi-Fi, which is number 10. And then it's by default enabled. If you don't see the Wi-Fi symbol, then you would want to enable it. And then there's Wi-Fi reset. That has to do with some of the features that you would customize in your app and phone. And again, we'll handle that separately. So the next item on the list, you don't even need to worry about it. It's item number 11, and that is extensions. You can go in there and look, and you can change numbers and things, but it won't do anything for you. It's something we use internally as a manufacturer, and so you just don't need to worry about it. So this pump can be controlled remotely by the app that we talked about previously, and then also by connecting to automation systems. And that communication happens through an actual port, hardwired port on the side of the motor. And that is an RS-485 communication port that talks to all of the various pump controls in the pool industry. Let's look at the details and what can be done here. So under the settings menu, the COM port RS-485 is item number 12. So in it is a baud rate. You don't need to worry about it. The one thing that you will want to look at is the pump address if you have more than one pump. So if you have 2 or 3 pumps, you need to tell that automation system, or the automation system needs to know which pump it is. So the default first one on your pool is always 1. If you only have 1 pump, easy, done. If you have 2, the second pump on your system, you will go into the RS-485 menu setting, and you will change the pump number 2 to pump number 2. If there's a third one, you will give it the third number, so on and so forth. You could skip around and use other numbers, but that's the idea here. The next feature I want to talk about is called lock panel, and the lock panel we're talking about is locking the control panel on the pump physically, and that's a security feature so someone doesn't modify the programming or any of those kinds of things on the pump itself. And so on the lock panel is item 13 in the setting menu. When you select it, you will see function, and that will allow us to enable or disable. By default, it's disabled. Okay, and then item number 2 in the panel is the password, and it defaults to 1111. Okay, so if you were to enable it without changing the passcode, it's 11111, and then you would have control of the pump. Now, if you can change this to any 4-digit, 4-number PIN number that you want, and without that PIN number, then you can't reprogram the pump. So it's a security feature to keep people from changing the pump programming. Next feature we're going to talk about is called Quick Clean. And the premise of Quick Clean is there is a sweet spot for vacuum cleaners in particular, or it could be high pressure for a robotic cleaner. But in any event, it's really designed for a cleaner that has a speed, flow rate, and pressure that it wants to run at. And often that is figured out by trial and error. You actually watch the cleaner run around the pool and at the proper speed per its instructions. Once you find that speed, then you program it into Quick Clean, and then that way, every time you go to do it, you just set that speed and it will work great. So it could be the setting that the once a week service pro needs to make their specific vacuum head and hose and unique to the pool work perfectly to do a great job on your swimming pool. So that's quick clean. Let's look at how we make these adjustments. We start by going to the menu, which brings us to the settings menu. We push and then scroll down to quick clean is item number 14. So select 14, quick clean, and you will see program 1, 2, and 3. They're all the same. Let's dive into program 1. And as always, it has a function and we would want to enable it. And it's enabled now. So we're gonna accept that. And then we have a duration. Duration is how long it's going to run at that specific speed. So it overrides any program that was happening when the pool person shows up. You know, your pump probably is going to be running, and this would then move the pump to the speed they need. The default is 30 minutes. If it's a bigger pool, you might want longer. If it's a smaller pool, they may not need it to run this long. Again, the default is 30 minutes. And then the speed default is full speed 3,400. That's full speed, which might be great for a pressure side cleaner, but it's probably more than you need for a vacuum cleaner. But again, a pool pro will figure this out and optimize it, so you have the ability to change the speed to what is needed. And so it's pretty simple. There is we have 3 programs that you can do for 3 different things, and 3 different durations, how long will it run, and 3 different speeds. That's how we program quick clean. Now let's see how to use it. So if you look on the bottom of the cheat sheet for the quick guide, you will see hold enter for 3 seconds to activate quick clean. So I'm going to hold the enter, 1, 2, 3, and then it will show up as program 1. And then you hit enter and it will run at 3450 for 30 minutes. That's the way we programmed it. And if you're done, you just hit stop and it clears that. Now it does have 3 programs. So let's go in and enable the second one. So I'm going to go back to the menu. I'm going to go all the way down in the settings menu down to quick clean, which is item 14. I'm going to select enter, and then I'm going to go down to program 2, enter, hit function, and enable. Now we have 2 enabled, and we'll look down the duration, default for 30 minutes, escape. Let's go down to the speed, and we program 1400 RPM so you can see the difference. Now let's escape this, go back to the home screen, and now again it says hold for 3 seconds. So we're going to hold the enter button for 2, 3, 1, and now you see we have 2 quick clean programs, 1 and 2. The first time I showed you was the high speed default, so let's go to program 2, hit enter. And you can see the pump is quieter and running at 1400 RPM. So that's how you can have a second quick clean, and you can have a third. All right, so the final control we have, very unlike you would use it, but it's handy for us. And that's called reset. Now beware, it's way at the bottom of the menu for a reason, and what reset does is restore the factory defaults, and that's exactly what I want to do after mucking with this to demo. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom, I think it's 15, hit reset. I'm going to say yes, and yes, I really mean to reset it, so you won't do it accidentally. Okay, so now we're back to the factory defaults. Let's go look at that. Let's go back to Quick Clean and select Program 1. It was enabled, so that doesn't really help us. Let's go back. Let's go look at Program 2, because that we added. And function, it's disabled. Okay, so the reset cleared that. The duration we never changed. Let's look at speed, and it's back to the factory default of 3400. So that's an example of what reset does. It restores all of these menu items back to the factory default. The good news is it won't change the time on your clock. So you could reset all your programs, but you won't have to reprogram the clock. And so that's the high-level basics of the pipeline pump programming via the onboard menu.